turn into one of the most thrilling episodes. Dangers lurked everywhere around Famicia. She was attacked by the killer giants, but her friend said Ciel intervened to fend them off. However, he fell into the river, making the situation even more dire for Famicia. Eventually, she was captured by these monsters. Will Famicia survive this attack? Follow the story to its conclusion to find out everything. The episode begins on a dark night in a forest, with Famicia fleeing from the men of her village, who are determined to kill her. They see her as a potential disaster because she lacks stars in her magical abilities. The villagers believe that those without stars shouldn't exist in their world. Famicia continues running through the forest until sunrise, where she stops at a particular spot marked with symbols on a tree. Famicia opens a hidden door in the forest floor, revealing a small underground space filled with bags. These bags were given to her by a witch possessing magical powers that allow anyone to store items of any size in them. Famicia puts various things in the bags, including magical books and poison bottles. She wears the bags and sets off to escape, haunted by the memories of being an unwanted child and rejected by the village. As hours pass and the sun rises on a beautiful day, Famicia finds herself in a lush green forest. She plays around, expressing her desire to have skills like running, hiding, and escaping. However, she realizes that having such skills wouldn't have changed her fate in her past life. She advises her to stop complaining and accept her circumstances if she wants to achieve something in life. Famicia decides to become strong and continues playing until she stumbles upon a landfill, sparking her excitement to explore its contents. In this place, Famicia finds many things, including numerous poison bottles and clothes, in good condition. She discovers a map inside one of the clothes, bringing her great joy as it will make her journey easier. She gathers all these items and puts them in her bag. However, Famicia is reminded once again that she is an unwanted child and no one desires her anymore. This realization saddens her deeply. Suddenly, she senses the presence of people in the vicinity. She hides and observes two individuals searching for her. One of them mentions that it's the perfect time to feed the gelatinous creatures. Famicia wonders if these creatures are cute, but senses that they are not. She overhears the men discussing her, highlighting that her only problem is figuring out which direction she escaped in. Upon hearing this, Famicia quickly flees the area to avoid being seen, as they are still searching for her. While hiding among the trees, Famicia hears the men talking about the village leader, creating a commotion regarding her and offering a substantial reward for anyone who brings her head, regardless of whether she's alive or dead, so that revelation distresses Famicia, knowing that the village leader intends to kill her as well. She runs away from them until night falls, eventually finding refuge under a massive tree, where she sleeps. The next morning, Famicia wakes up and explores the forest. She walks by a beautiful lake and experiences a gust of wind. Staring up at many gelatinous creatures in her direction and sticking to her hands, she runs away and suddenly stumbles upon a distant location. Relieved to have escaped the gelatinous creatures, Famicia discovers a wound on her hand. She applies the old poison bottle to it, but realizes it's not enough. Fortunately, another bottle appears, and she successfully heals her wound. Afterwards, Famicia continues her journey and finds the beautiful lake again. Overcome with a sense of wonder, she decides to undress and swim in it, feeling a wonderful sensation she had never experienced before. She recalls the advice of the witch to be strong and determined, prompting her to cut her hair and disguise herself as a boy to travel safely. She chooses the name Ivy to replace the name given to her by her father, symbolizing resilience. Like the plant that grows even if stepped on, Ivy contemplates her uncertain future, realizing that everyone else in life has goals. Unlike just afterward, when Ivy explores the forest and senses something within it, she looks at the flowers and finds a small, gelatinous creature standing on one of them.
Now that's cute.
Ivy searches for it in the book she carries and discovers that it's not part of the known monster species. It's a rare, unnamed gelatinous creature. She decides to give it a name and continues reading, finding out that it's called the frail gel or the dispersing gel. Ivy understands that it is indeed weak, just like her, but she doesn't want to label it as weak. She decides to observe it with a different name. As the wind blows, the gelatinous creature floats with it. Due to its extreme weakness, it eventually falls on its back. Unable to get up, Ivy realizes that it is exceptionally fragile, and the book confirms that it might disappear with a simple touch or vanish if a strong storm blows away the concern for the frail gel. Ivy rushes to rescue it, fearing that strong winds might make it vanish. She manages to save it before it perishes. As the sun sets, Ivy talks to the frail gal, expressing her frustration about the unfairness of life. She explains the system in their village, where people receive their skills at the age of 5, and the number of stars determines the skill strength. Ivy reveals her own skill, having received a skill called monster taming with no stars. She shares her inability to even tame small animals due to the lack of stars, and when everyone discovered her starless skill, their attitudes towards her changed, including her parents. Ivy sadly recounts the loss of her home, family, and everything she once had, but she finds solace in the fact that she still possesses memories of her past life. She mentions that she's a human reborn in a different world and carries memories that, unfortunately, are not useful in her current situation. Sometimes these memories whisper things she can't comprehend in her ear. Then Ivy falls silent for a moment and tells him that another person treated her kindly and that she is a sorceress. The sorceress gave her many different books and taught her various things. She gave her that old magical bag, but its performance is not of the same quality. She can contain many things, and everything inside becomes lighter, so it is very useful for her as it helped her survive in this forest. Then she adds tearfully that the sorceress recently passed away, leaving her alone in this world. No one looks at her, and the people in the village try to kill her, despite her not doing anything and being unable to do anything. All of this is because she was born without stars. She doesn't know that not having stars is considered so bad to the extent that people want to harm her. She then tells the little slime that he is like her, born to disappear within a day. This world is unfair, and Ivy continues to share a lot with the little slime as she listens without anger. She is very happy to have met him, considering him her first and last friend, and wanting him to stay with her until the end. Ivy goes to sleep until morning, waking up and looking in front of her to talk to the slime, but he's not there. She searches for him, hearing something might have happened to him, and tears stream down her face as she searches, thinking he might be dead. Now she is alone again, just like before, and Ivy cries a lot about it. Then she heads towards her bag to take out the map, planning to follow the sorceress's advice to go to the royal capital. When she takes out the map, she feels something inside, and to her joy, it's the little slime. Ivy is overjoyed to see him and realizes that what she read about disappearing in a day was a lie. She takes him under a tree and looks in the book for instructions on how to tame monsters. She discovers that to tame any monster, she must transfer a small amount of magical energy to the monster first. If the monster accepts it, a mark appears on its face, indicating success. Ivy is afraid to do this because she is a tamer without stars. However, she gathers her strength and tames the little slime. Ivy uses her power to successfully tame him and names him Sora. Slime is very happy playing with her, and Ivy, at this moment, tells him her name. Several days later, we see Ivy in the forest, attempting to hunt a small mouse. She succeeds in catching it and proceeds to slaughter it, taking it with her in her bag to cook its meat. Ivy then opens her map and examines it as she is trying to reach a town near the capital of this kingdom, as the sorceress instructed her. The sorceress told her that she should go there, and then told Ciel about her origin in the village of Latome. She also pointed out the location of the royal capital, which is not on the map. It is on the other side of her village, so she first heads to her hometown to reach the capital. At this time, strong winds arise that would have blown away the slime, but Ivy manages to hold on to it. At the last moment, Ivy talks to Sora, saying that he needs to grow up so that he doesn't remain so lightweight, as he is a rare slime and she doesn't want to lose him. While speaking with Sora, she senses something approaching, takes Sora, and runs away to escape a monster. Ivy hides above a tree, discovering a massive swarm of giant ants, a type of ferocious monster. They continue on their way without noticing her. Afterward, Ivy descends from the tree, and Sora comes out, but she tries to preserve him, unsure when she might encounter fierce monsters. Ivy then senses something on her face and finds a small wound caused by a branch. So at this moment, she takes out antidote bottles to treat the wound before it gets infected. Ivy uses the antidote, but it runs out, so she decides to buy more and roams the forest since she knows there is a village nearby. If she follows this path, Ivy walks along this path and finds posters hanging on trees with her picture and specifications. Anyone who finds her will receive a reward of 500 gold coins. Ivy becomes very upset, not understanding why they are offering such a large sum for her when she hasn't done anything. Just in anger, she removes those posters from the trees and cuts them. After some time, Ivy reaches the village. Before entering, she puts the slime in her bag so no one sees it. Ivy enters the village in disguise, discovering that they use magic in all their activities. She wishes she could use magic as well. Ivy finds children playing together. The boy has the skill of speed, and his sister lacks in a skill. Ivy wandered around the village and came across the bakery. She got very excited because it had been a long time since she had eaten any kind of bread. However, she didn't care much because she didn't have any money. She continued on her way and found a butcher. She thought about selling the meat she had caught and lingered around the butcher. The butcher noticed her and asked what she wanted. She told him that she had things to sell, and the butcher agreed. Ivy took out the meat she had and was surprised that the butcher could smell that it was field mouse meat without seeing it. He explained that he had a heightened sense of smell and could distinguish senses. Ivy handed him the meat, and when he opened it, he found it to be very fresh and well prepared. He asked about the quantity, and Ivy showed him a large amount of field mouse meat. The butcher calculated the price, and it reached 100 pieces. Ivy was thrilled because she would finally have a lot of money to spend as she pleased. The butcher asked her to bring more meat if she haunted again, since everyone sought large prey and field mice were rarely brought to him. She left and went to the bakery to buy bread. There, she encountered a merchant who treated her as if she were a boy and asked about her identity. Ivy explained that she had relatives in the village and inquired about the quantity she could buy with 100 pieces. The merchant told her she could take everything in that basket. So Ivy bought a large amount of bread and happily ran off. She returned to the forest with her friends, the slime, and sat on a tree to enjoy the delicious bread, savoring the moment as it had been a long time since she last had such a treat. She asked the jelly for its opinion on the bread, but it didn't respond. Ivy understood that it didn't want the bread and proceeded to take out the items it usually consumed, were dissipating jelly creatures. The slime tried to explain, but Ivy couldn't understand. She took the slime and roamed the forest, hunting more field mice later. She decided to return to the butcher to sell the meat and earn money for more bread. On her way back, she found herself at Phil and discovered large doses of poison. Unsure if they were still usable, she took them with her in her bag, feeling excited. Meanwhile, the slime tried to dispose of some jelly bottles, surprising Ivy with its ability to do so. She offered him a bottle, but the slime refused, making her realize it could only dispose of the blue doses. Ivy left the slime with a bottle and went back to the village to sell more meat. She sold a significant amount of field mouse meat to the butcher, receiving 250 pieces in return. With the money, she bought bread and sweets from the merchant, expressing her gratitude. Ivy returned to her spot, went to the lake for a swim, and asked the slime if it wanted to join, but it declined, fearing it might drift away. Ivy comforted the jelly, then took out the poison bottles for it to consume. She also got a piece of bread for herself and happily ate it, appreciating the kindness of the villagers and hoping she could stay there forever. So the next day, Ivy wanders around the village and encounters many adventurers. One of them approaches her and starts talking to her about what they want. As Ivy looks at him, she realizes that he's the person she's been searching for. However, he doesn't recognize her because she is disguised as a boy. Another adventurer asks her about the magical bags she carries, making Ivy very afraid. She runs away from them, thankful that they didn't recognize her as familiar, and continues running until the butcher stops her. The butcher asked Ivy if she had caught any field mice. Ivy informs him that she didn't catch anything that day. The butcher tells her that some adventurers have passed through the village and bought all his dried meat, claiming they need it for their journey. He ran out of stock and asked Ivy to bring him more mice. Ivy agrees, and the butcher mentions that he'll raise the buying price for her. Ivy thanks him and hurries to the bakery. Ivy, get to the bakery. The baker asks Ivy if she wants bread for the day. Ivy declines, but the baker insists on giving her a piece of her favorite loaf for free. She asks Ivy to wait and eat it fresh without paying, as she'll have to eat it eventually. Ivy hesitates as she doesn't have money, but the baker insists she can pay later. Ivy thanks her, but upon seeing her reflection in the baker's eyes, she hastily leaves to avoid being recognized. At sunset, Ivy sits on her usual tree, crying and talking about the kind people in the village. She realizes she cannot stay there for long due to the presence of adventurers. She then extracts the slime and asks if there's a place for her. She wants reassurance. The girl sleeps sadly, and by morning she decides to leave the village. As Ivy walks, she consults her map, unsure if she's on the right path. The slime attempts to communicate, but Ivy doesn't understand. However, she senses it's hungry. She reaches a river with fruit trees and asks the Slimmel to try the fruit, but it refutes. Ivy insists that if it doesn't learn to eat everything, it won't grow. Suddenly, the tree changes color, and a large monster emerges, attacking Ivy. She runs away, injured, searching for antidotes, but can't find any. The slime stands on her wound, and Ivy doesn't know what it's doing. Part 2 of our story begins when Famicia was reminiscing about her past, or when someone was narrating her past while her father sat outside the house trimming a piece of wood. Suddenly, his wife was blessed with a newborn, bringing immense joy to the father. He quickly rushes inside, opens the door, and is informed by the midwife that the mother and the newborn are both healthy and free of any complications. The father rejoices greatly, thanking the midwife for her assistance. They decide to name the baby Famicia, a name that brings much joy to the mother. Over the years, the scene transitions to the Famicia. Growing up, we see her running around the house, calling her brother, who has a meal prepared by her. The family, including the father, sits together to eat, and even their dog joins them. Famicia, in her haste, drinks her water quickly, leading her brother to advise her to chew her food more carefully. The father then emphasizes the importance of Famicia eating plenty to grow quickly and be strong, warning her against being frail, as people may take advantage of her and bully her. Later, Famicia returns home, where her mother welcomes her. Her brother advises her to use magic quickly, but her mother intervenes, assuring her that there's no need to rush. She encourages Famicia that everyone evolves at their own pace and acknowledges her impressive skills in helping others. Famicia expresses that this was not the advice given to her when she was 4, as she had always wished to hurry and unlock her supernatural abilities. Famicia then prepares a meal for the family, placing their favorite dish, a big bowl of red soup, on the table. The father delightedly credits Famicia, who possesses the soothing skill of contributing to the preparation, and promises that it will alleviate his fatigue quickly. The family enjoys the meal together, portraying a wonderful picture of collaboration, joy, and shared smiles. Later in the evening, everyone was busy with their individual tasks, yet they all gathered in one place. As the father updated them about the house, he mentioned that some final touches needed to be completed by the end of the month. Referring to their new home, we then see Famicia handling furniture and beautiful wooden pieces, while her mother, skilled in sewing, works on a bridal dress for her brother, who is a shoemaker. The mother tears up, and Famicia asks her what's wrong. The mother reveals that she remembered Famicia, and her younger sister will eventually leave for another house. When they get married, time is passing swiftly and soon the day will come. The father comments on how fast time flies as Famicia turns 5. He advises her that children at this age start shouldering responsibilities, and her unique skill will always find a place for her to work and earn her next meal. The mother adds that skills and talents are God-given, but it's crucial to nurture them through daily practice and continuous learning. Famicia's brother with yellow hair chimes in, confirming the importance of skills. He mentions that with 3 stars, like his own skill, you're safe, but with just 1 star, like Famicia's lower skill, you might face elimination. When Famicia asks them to stop talking, she huddles with her family. Her brother advises her to choose her skill wisely. Famicia expresses her desire to be a monster tamer, making friends with dragons, sheep, snakes, and all kinds of creatures. Her family laughs, and her sister smiles. The father sits beside her and emphasizes that skills are divine gifts and may or may not be granted. He gives her a wooden horse, symbolizing her potential to navigate this world. However, he warns that God can choose to grant or withhold these abilities. As they rejoice in Famicia's decision, there's a knock on the door. At this late hour, they wonder who could be visiting. The mother stood up to open the door and found it to be Miss Luba.
ルーバ様。夜分申し訳ありません。そろそろフェミシアがスキルを授かる頃かと思いまして、幸運をお祈りに参りました。
She apologized for coming at such a late hour, but realized it was time to impart skills to Famicia. The mother welcomed Miss Luba into the house, introducing her to the little girl Famicia and praising her intelligence. And she started speaking at a young age. However, she expressed concern about Famicia sometimes saying peculiar things, prompting Miss Luba's visit. Miss Luba was surprised and questioned the mother about the peculiar things Famicia said. The mother explained that her husband thought she was making too much of it, but she worried about whether Famicia could use her supernatural abilities or not. Referring to magic, Famicia's mother then asked Miss Luba if magic exists in this world. Miss Luba confirmed it, bringing great joy to Famicia. Miss Luba was asked about certain things that Famicia wasn't fully aware of regarding creation and existence. She assured them not to worry, mentioning that the child would become exceptionally intelligent. When Miss Luba, while acknowledging that she doesn't personally believe in such things, decided to bring some happiness to the girl by reading her fortune, Famicia was instructed to fetch a new candle. Famicia questioned the concept of fortune reading, and Miss Luba clarified that it relies on the unseen, known only to God. Despite not fully believing in such practices, Miss Luba intended to bring joy to Famicia by saying a few words, nothing more or less. As Miss Luba prepared for the fortune reading, she approached Famicia and asked if she had memories of her past life. Famicia was surprised by the question, and Miss Luba warned her that revealing such memories, even to her mother, could complicate matters. Famicia promised not to say anything again. After Miss Luba concluded some chants and statements, she informed them that it was done. The mother eagerly asked if Famicia saw the skill she would acquire, and Famicia replied that she had a 1-star skill, making it impossible for her to see other skills. In those moments, Famicia's brother confronted Miss Luba, accusing her of being a fraud, as only charlatans claim to know the unseen. This angered the father, and he reprimanded his son, urging him to be considerate of Famicia's feelings. The father was particularly upset and grabbed his son's ear, warning him to stop hurting Famicia emotionally. The next morning, Famicia underwent an initiation ceremony to strengthen her abilities. The man overseeing the ritual indulged in some superstitions, thinking they were true. However, he used his magic and informed them that Famicia possessed the skill of a beast tamer and the ability to earn monsters. Despite Famicia having no stars, the father doubted the accuracy of the man's magic, insisting that his daughter couldn't be without stars. The scene shifted to a bar, where the angry father resorted to heavy drinking, displaying erratic behavior. He vented his frustration, hitting the table with his hand and expressing disbelief at the idea of Famicia lacking stars. The mother tried to calm him down, advising him not to exaggerate. Later, in a fit of rage, the father destroyed a wooden horse with his foot, questioning Famicia's true identity. The mother, accused of dishonesty, broke down in tears. Famicia approached her to console her, but her brother intervened, shouting at her not to touch their mother. He forcibly dragged Famicia outside and commanded her to leave the house immediately. Heartbroken, Famicia ran out of the house while the family discussed the implications of a child without stars, considering it a disastrous omen. The man who performed the ritual warned him of impending disasters, and Famicia overheard the conversation from a distance. She fled. Some children threw stones at her, taunting her as someone without stars. And she ran into the distant forest, crying and questioning why this had happened. The situation worsened with rain pouring down, and Famicia found herself hungry and alone. Unable to return to the house, she gazed at it from afar. The circumstances took a turn for the worse as Famicia faced hunger and isolation with no refuge or insight. Then Famicia finds some fruits and eats them. Afterwards, she seeks refuge in a small cave from the intense rain, but the cold is too harsh. She breaks some sticks and twigs, then lights a fire to warm herself. She uses her strength twice until she loses consciousness. When she wakes up, she finds an old lady and Miss Luba beside her. Suddenly, Miss Luba appears and assures Famicia about her well-being. Miss Luba explains that Famicia seems to have less magical energy than most people and warns her that depleting her magical energy could endanger her life. Miss Luba offers Famicia a warm drink, which she eagerly consumes. Feeling much better, Miss Luba mentions that Famicia has limited magical energy and provides her with a magical bag and a book. The bag appears old, but can hold many things, and anything placed inside becomes small in the bag, and the book contains valuable knowledge that will be useful to Famicia. Famicia is astonished when Miss Luba talks about a journey, but Miss Luba explains that Famicia should explore neighboring towns and expand her horizons. Miss Luba advises Famicia not to force herself to continue traveling if she finds a place she wants to stay permanently. However, she should look for trustworthy people and be open with them about everything. Famicia wonders why Miss Luba is kind to her. Despite being without stars, Miss Luba laughs and says that she doesn't hate her, reassuring Famicia that everything hidden eventually comes to light. Famicia asks if Miss Luba hates her, and Miss Luba responds, "Why would I hate you? Everyone hates me as if I were without stars." Miss Luba informs Famicia that in ancient times, nobody possessed skills or stars. People lived happily without skills, and not having a skill was not a bad thing. Famicia becomes sad and questions why things have changed now. Miss Luba admits she doesn't know and wonders about the reason herself. The scene shifts 3 years later, and Famicia is scavenging through debris looking for anything useful. She starts collecting pieces of wood to kindle fires when needed. Suddenly, she discovers a blue potion, and after taking it, she becomes very happy. She had a fruitful day, collecting a substantial load. As Famicia sits by the river enjoying her meal, she wonders why Miss Luba hasn't visited recently. Concerned, she goes to the village and finds a large gathering in front of the church. Inside, she hears people talking about losing someone dear to them due to the cold. Famicia realizes it's Miss Luba and is shocked by the news. Later, Famicia overhears her father telling the village elder that she wasn't in the shelter and must have sensed their presence and fled. The village elder insists that they must act against this. An individual without stars shouldn't be allowed to stay in their world. Famicia is horrified, imagining the earth splitting open, and she envisions her family regretting her existence, wishing she was never born. From the other side, the village chief gathers all the residents and informs them that Miss Luba is crucial for their village. He attributes her death to a curse, stating that Miss Luba warned her about Famicia, the stollis and ostracized girl. The curse Miss Luba received was due to ignoring the warning about Famicia, who is now condemned and shunned by everyone. The village chief declares Famicia a disaster and a threat to the village. He urges the villagers to find her, stating that she must be captured and that they will kill her before she brings catastrophe to their village.
Latome村に災いが訪れる前に。
The people start searching the forest with torches, looking for Famicia. She tries to escape, but the villagers corner her. She questions why she is being treated this way, emphasizing that she hasn't committed any wrongdoing. Famicia imagines her father preparing to strike her with a large hammer, intending to kill her. Suddenly, Famicia wakes up, realizing it was all a nightmare. She is terrified, her heart pounding with fear. Looking at the sky, she notices a wall sticking to her hand, fearing it might consume her. Designed for her fate, she contemplates her unwanted existence as a child. In the morning, Sora attempts to wake her, and she realizes her wound has completely healed. Sora, who now can speak, utters unruly anime, making Famicia ecstatic that he can speak now. She thanks Sora for healing her and expresses gratitude for him. Despite being an unwanted child, Famicia decides to live a bit longer as she feels content when she's with Sora. He realizes that it's morning and tries to wake up Famicia, who indeed wakes up and notices that Sora seems unusually energetic this morning. They both start having breakfast, with Sora consuming glass bottles and Famicia eating a berry. Suddenly, Famicia observes that Sora has grown slightly taller and can now jump higher. She is amazed that he has learned all these new abilities. She grabs him, lifts him up, and notices that his texture has become more solid. They believe he has become an adult because he has consumed a lot of those blue doses. Suddenly, Sora jumps out of her hand, takes another blue dose, and joyfully continues to explore his newfound abilities. Famicia is delighted with Sora's improved health and expresses her happiness, attributing it to the many fruits she gathered. However, the dried meat is running out and they decide to buy more in the next village. Suddenly, Famicia notices that Sora has consumed all the blue doses he had and seems to want more. Concerned, she takes him and walks into the forest until they reach a garbage dump. There she searches for food for Sora and discovers some glass bottles with doses. However, she also finds beautiful clothes, which angers Sora. Sora tells her they need to find his food first. Famicia finds many bottles with various doses, and Sora eagerly starts consuming them one after another. She then gives him a green dose, but he struggles to eat it. Trying another purple dose, it turns out it breaks the curses, and he refuses to eat it as well. Suddenly, an idea crosses Famicia's mind. She decides to mix the colors together, combining blue and red to create a purple dose. When she gives it to Sora, he happily consumes it until he is completely satisfied. Just afterward, they leave the place, and the weather is beautiful. They are extremely optimistic, as they believe they will be able to travel to a distant place. Famicia never imagined that traveling could be so enjoyable, and she is very happy to have met Sora because she had always thought she would travel alone and live her life in solitude, making her extremely grateful for the unexpected companionship. Suddenly, she sees a lot of these delicious berries called nibiri and decides to buy many of them. She starts picking them, attempting to offer some to Sora, but he refuses to eat them at all. She tells him about their delicious taste, but he remains uninterested and deterred. She continues picking a lot of nibiri and puts them in her magical bag, which can hold anything. Later at sunset, they sit down for a meal, and she happily indulges in the nibiri, wishing the entire journey could be filled with these tasty fruits, and hoping for abundant grapes as well. She notices that Sora has finished his meal, and she offers him more nibiri. Surprisingly, he starts eating them all, leaving her astonished as she worries about him overeating and leaving nothing for later. But suddenly Sora grabs a handful of berries from her hand and eats them all. Still very hungry, she becomes sad, realizing that at this rate he will consume all of them, leaving nothing for their journey. As long as Sora is awake, he will keep eating, so she must make him sleep as soon as possible to ensure they have enough for the entire journey. Because then she carries him in her hands and says to him, "I will tell you a bedtime story." They sit on a tree at night, and she begins to tell him a story she heard a lot when she was little. The story dates back to a time when the world was in a state of war. She said, "There, one day, the king gathered the sorcerers who could foresee the future and asked them to predict how the war would end. The vision they saw was the end of the world, a terrifying scene. Most of the sorcerers discussed their vision, and to protect the world, they unleashed a very powerful magic. No one knew what that magic was, and no one could use it. Now the only one capable of using it was a child from another world. It was a forgotten magic with unknown effects, vast, frightening, and serene." Suddenly Famicia falls asleep while narrating this fantastical story, and Sora also falls asleep. After a while, a drop of waterfalls fell on Sora, waking him up. Instantly realizing it's morning, he wakes up Famicia, who was surprised to find out that she slept while telling the bedtime story. She is shocked to see that Sora has eaten all the doses. No blue or red doses are left. Then she climbs down from the tree and catches the mouse to sell it and earn money. Suddenly, she discovers a large snake in the trap she set for mice. She tries to catch it, thinking she can sell it at a high price, but the snake tries to attack her. Then she took a piece of cloth and covered the snake, which was wriggling in it. She proceeded to pull out a large rope and tie the snake so that it couldn't escape. After that, Famicia continued on her way, carrying the snake on her back, and Sora walked beside her. She turned right and left, sensing a strange smell and wondering if it was a monster, but she felt nothing. They continue down the road, and to their surprise, they see a horse covered in blood, an overturned carriage, and everyone inside either injured or dead. In those moments, Famicia quickly hid Sora to avoid being targeted by the highwaymen, as the situation was very dangerous. She then descended from the hill and found 3 people drenched in blood. Famicia was shocked and held her breath, then ran quickly to escape from that place. Her speed was incredible, fueled by the adrenaline released due to her intense fear. She covered some kilometers, but in her normal stage, she couldn't cover much distance. Finally, she stopped and caught her breath, looking at a large castle in the distance, seemingly abandoned. Fighting to reach the city, she entered through the main gate, strolling through its streets and contemplating what she had witnessed hours ago. Famicia wanted to inform someone about the incident. At that moment, she entered a building and greeted the people there. The secretary asked her about the thing she was carrying on her shoulder, and Famicia explained that she had intended to trap a rat, but caught a snake instead. The one-eyed man then told her that if she wanted to sell a snake, she should go to a pharmacy, not the town hall. Famicia thanked them for the information, then informed them that on her way here she discovered some brutally murdered individuals. The method of killing was extremely gruesome. This revelation shocked everyone. The secretary urged her to come closer and provide more details. Famicia approached and explained that it happened on the road from the village of Latoto. A carriage was burning, and people were attacked by some monsters. No one survived the assault. The strong man was astonished and exclaimed, "Monsters? Did you say monsters?" He approached Famicia with intense scrutiny and questioned her, expressing disbelief. She confirmed the presence of monsters, pointing out the brutal wounds on the bodies and the fact that the horses were dead, not stolen, indicating it wasn't the work of highwaymen. The man acknowledged her intelligence, stating that if her account was accurate, the village might be under attack. He called out to everyone, emphasizing the seriousness of the situation. He instructed them to search for the exact location and identify the type of monsters. He mentioned that he would file an official request through the guild. Later, the group quickly mobilized, heading outside to investigate. The strong man thanked Famicia for bringing the matter to their attention and assured her that she would receive a reward once they verified the situation. Famicia was taken aback by this, expressing her surprise at the unexpected turn of events. But the secretary informs her that she can receive money for information about monsters or people who died as a result of monster attacks. If she reports such information to the town hall, she'll be rewarded. Famicia wasn't aware of this, but she expresses her happiness at the prospect of earning some money. The secretary hands her the document to keep, and she can return later after they verify the situation. The scene then shifts to the pharmacy, where Famicia is selling the snake she caught. The pharmacist informs her that the market value for a snake monster is $2 each. However, upon inspection, he finds out that the snake is a rare female, so he offers her $3 for it. He hands her the money or the equivalent in their currency and tells her that if she catches more, she can bring them to the pharmacy for purchase. Famicia leaves the place, delighted to have some currency. She opens her bag for Sora, telling him that she'll search for food for both of them. As she continues her journey, she comes across a red bag, seemingly magical. Upon closer inspection, she discovers numerous bags in the area, around 21 in total, but she desires to take them all. But realizing she can't carry them, she understands that they are old models with varying abilities, not of high precision. As for Famicia, her modern backpack held many items. She pondered the situation and came up with an idea. What if she placed those magical bags inside other magical bags? Would that serve her purpose? She decided to give it a try, as Famicia started. However, when she attempted to put one magical bag inside another, it didn't work. The magical bag couldn't enter the other magical bag, and even an empty magical bag couldn't go into the first one. Famicia began to think through the situation and divided the bags into 4 groups. On her left were magical bags that couldn't hold any other magical bags. She pointed to the next group, which could hold 1 magical bag each. The third group could carry 2 magical bags, and the last one on her far left could hold 3 magical bags. Famicia contemplated how she would carry all these bags together while still remaining light for easy transport. Engaging in a mathematical process, she finally managed to make the items lighter. However, she needed to find a bag that could carry 3 magical bags and another that could carry just 1. After numerous attempts and calculations, Famicia eventually solved the problem, but it took a considerable amount of effort. Famicia is very happy because she managed to collect the bags together. Then she apologizes and says, "Come on, let's go and collect the doses." The slime is very excited about it. After that, we see her walking down the road, smiling. However, she is surprised to see a group of people, so she tries to hide from them because they are a group of adventurers. Suddenly, one of the adventurers she spoke to before talks to her and tells her that the information she provided us some time ago actually saved them. They were able to verify it immediately because the culprit were the monsters Gillen and the King of Golan. They managed to do that because they saw traces of Golan around the damaged carriage. When the adventurers followed the traces, they found the King of Galan, and some powerful adventurers are about to set off to hunt them. He warns her that it is dangerous and advises her not to leave the village unless the adventurers can defeat the monsters. He also tells her that he will receive a financial reward for cooperating with them. After that, Ivy goes to collect rewards, and the girl tells her that she deserves to be proud of what she did. She treats her as if she were a boy, not a girl, and asks her if she has the previous document. After that, she starts searching for it in all the bags she's carrying. Eventually, she finds it and gives it to the employee. The employee gives her rewards, which are a silver plate. It's worth 5 guidel. Ivy is astonished by this and mentions that the snake monster was worth 3 guidal, equivalent to 30 farah. Then this time it's 5 guidals, which is 50 farah. She gets very excited, and the employee continues to state that for information about reporting a high-level monster, the reward is 2 gold pieces, which she happily realizes is equivalent to 10 guides or 200 farah in total. She earned the value of capturing 280 farah field mice that day. As the employee warns her about the large sum and advises her to be careful not to lose it, Ivy takes the money and goes. But before leaving, the employee tells her to take all the bags she had thrown on the ground. Later, we see Ivy walking in the street, expressing that it's the first time she has obtained such a large amount of money. She wonders if everyone is targeting these gold pieces. In the evening, a group of adventurers prepares to hunt monsters, and we see Ivy sitting near them, eating and feeding her slime companion, Sora. She tells Sora that the forest is very dangerous due to monster hunting, so they'll sleep here tonight. She looks at the map and decides they may have to stay in this town until the monster hunting is over. The next destination is the village of Latome, and she expresses excitement about it, saying the journey is full of adventures. Finally, she lies down on her back and says she enjoys being with Sora a lot before falling asleep. Today's episode starts with Famicia and her friend Sora, both clearly saddened by the failure of the trap. Once again, Famicia wonders if someone stepped on it, realizing they won't be able to earn any money at this rate. However, she remembers the monetary reward she received from Layden Village. She opens her bag and says we should be fine for a while, but if this journey continues, I want to save for the future. Suddenly, Sora distances himself and runs off. Famicia follows him, and he enters the trees. As Famicia follows Sora, she sees a wounded wolf and feels a weak magical energy towards it. She consults her book to identify the creature, realizing it's an extremely fierce and rare beast. She moves towards the wolf, and the wolf looks at her, frightening Famicia because it's still alive. She realizes it's very tired and will die soon. She places her hands on its head, reassuring it that she'll stay by its side. Suddenly, Sora leaps up, grows in size, and lands on the wolf, beginning to tend to its wounds. After finishing, he returns to his normal size, and Famicia holds him. Suddenly, the wolf stands before her and approaches. Playing with her, Famicia expresses that, according to the book, such a monster requires a team of at least 5 highly ranked adventurers to defeat it, and facing it alone in the forest would be fatal. As the wolf looks at her, Famicia grows very fond of it, placing her hands on it and playing with it. The scene shifts to Famicia, Sora, and the wolf. On their way to Latome village, Famicia talks to herself, wondering if she's gained a new friend and now wishing she had greater magical energy to tame him. She tells the wolf he needs a name, and after thinking a little, she names him Shield, meaning sky. She introduces herself and introduces him to Sora, the slime. On their way, Famicia feels people nearby, telling Sora to hide in her magical bag. She looks at Ciel and tells him he can't fit in the bag, and it wouldn't be good for people to see him. Suddenly, Ciel hides among the trees. The scene shifts to Famicia standing in front of the palace, looking at the guard, and saying he looks scary. Suddenly, a man approaches from behind, asking her what she's doing. She tells him she's not doing anything, and he leaves. As we see Sora trembling with fear in those moments, the man with a backpack approaches. The guard asks him who he is and what he intends to do in Laram village, which flusters the man. He tells the guard that he's here to visit a friend for the first time. The guard asks for his friend's name, causing more confusion for the man who stammers. This is Ciliot. The guard, noticing the man's discomfort, becomes angrier and grabs him, pressing him against the wall. He draws his sword and cuts open the man's bag, revealing some items falling out, stones, and then he checks the other bag, finding bottles of banned alcohol. It turns out that the man is trafficking drugs. The guard calls for his friend Velavira to take him to prison. Velavira approaches and tells the guard that the man might indeed be a criminal, but he should treat him with more courtesy and kindness, as this is not how humans are treated. The man agrees to deal with it later. The guard then takes the man to prison. Famicia is astonished and asks Sora if he could have known about this beforehand, considering his sixth sense. The guard looks at her, appearing very frightening, and fear fills Famicia's heart as she hesitates whether to proceed or return. She speaks to herself, realizing that escaping here wouldn't help. It would only raise suspicions. In that case, she decides to continue crossing. As she moves forward, the guard stops her, asking who she is. He speaks to her as if she were a boy, asking her where he's seen her before. She tells him she's not a boy. The guard looks at her strangely. His appearance is very terrifying, causing Famicia to tremble with fear. He asks her what's wrong. She tells him there's a bug on his shoulder. When he sees it, he becomes flustered and afraid. He thanks her for telling him about it. Then he stops her again, asking which family she belongs to. She tells him she's from Latome village. The guard is surprised, asking if she traveled all that distance alone. He's heard that chaos reigns in Latome village these days and imagines she must have suffered a lot. He kneels down and assures her that she's now in Latome village and will be safe. Then he tells her that if she becomes an adventurer, she'll earn a lot of money, so she should work hard. He bids her farewell and lets her go. Finally, Famicia crosses the gate into the beautiful city. She quickly runs to a vendor to buy some meat because she wants wild rabbit meat. The vendor tells her it's expensive because it's hard to catch. Famicia offers to buy it if she manages to catch her prey. The vendor agrees as long as it's fresh, but warns her to be cautious of the dangerous new nose that frequent the forest. She buys some meat and leaves the place, talking to herself about the creature Nunoshi and the need to set traps for it since it's present in the city. While they're in the village, they shouldn't sleep in the forest, so perhaps they should rest in the adventurous field. Famicia wanders a bit until she finds the adventurous field, marveling at its beauty and size. Realizing that large villages also have open spaces, she tries to enter but encounters the massive guard, frightening her. The guard asks if she wants to stay here, to which she responds affirmatively, explaining she's alone. He advises her to go to the other side, as it would be safer for her. He gives her something, explaining that it's her permit. Famicia doesn't understand, so he clarifies that she won't be allowed in without showing it. She asked about the cost, and he told her there's no need to pay. They only regulate to prevent potential trouble. Famicia thanks him and enters the field, feeling extremely tense because of the guard. She spreads her carpet and lies down, feeling very happy. She looks around and sees many large tents, wondering if there are mid-ranked adventurers around and hoping to find a place far from them. She looks again and sees small tents on the other side, realizing they belong to beginner adventurers. At this point, she wishes she had a tent like theirs, so she wouldn't worry about being noticed as the weather changes. She wishes she could hide in a tent so she could take out her slime friend Sora. Remembering the monetary reward she received previously, she decides to go to the market to buy a new tent. Indeed, she goes down to the market to buy one and reads on a sign that the shop sells used tents at high prices but offers quick evaluations. Famicia considers buying a used tent. At this moment, Famicia is startled by the presence of an adventurer named Ort in front of her. The adventurer apologizes to her and asks if she's going to buy anything. She responds that she's going to buy a tent, which visibly affects Ort since she doesn't even have a tent. She actually understands she's from Latome village, known for its many problems, and asks if she was expelled from there. Famicia doesn't answer, so Ort asks for her name. Speaking to her as if she were a boy, she tells him her name is Ivy. Ogut welcomes Ivy and introduces himself and his friend Velavira. Then he tells her he'll take her to a big shop run by a skilled old man. Without hesitation, he takes her with him. Velavira asks Ogut to stop because he's hurting her a lot. He apologizes again for what happened and talks to her to reassure her. Famicia is afraid of him, so Velavira speaks to her, telling her not to be afraid of Ort. He's not a bad person, but when an idea enters his mind, he becomes blind to everything around him. Famicia tells them not to worry about her. Ort apologizes again and tells her he'll get her the greatest tent ever. Famicia is overjoyed because she can't believe her dream is about to come true. They go to the shop Ort mentioned and meet the old man. The old man asks what they want, but Ort says there's nothing here for him to buy. Instead, he mentions a young customer from Latome village who wants to buy a tent. The old man understands that the child must have been through very difficult times because of what's happening in the village. Then the old man looks at Famicia and asks her what she wants from him. Famicia tries to speak to him, but Ort interrupts quickly, asking the old man to give her something cheap and excellent. At the same time, the old man gets annoyed because it's clear that this child is very, very annoying. Ort asks him not to be harsh with his words to children and to be generous. The old man tells him that if he's speaking to the child, he should be gentle. The lighter the better, but then she'll break more easily. Then he asks Famicia if she prefers a durable tent that will last a long time or if she prefers to buy a new one as required, as these jobs she wants will change her life. So Ort said to Famicia, "If you have request, don't hesitate to make it." Famicia responded, saying all that matters is that I don't know much about their jobs, but the most important thing is how much it costs in general. The old man answered that the price varies depending on the product. What is your budget? Ort asked her how she got this amount of money. She replied that she got it in Latome village after finding victims of a monster attack and was given it as a financial reward. The old man remarked that since she received such a large amount, it must have been an extremely dangerous monster. He was glad she didn't fall victim to it. Then the old man told her that with 5 guides, she could buy a good tent. He showed her this tent, saying it was lightweight and durable. It was bought by a person who found a woman immediately after, then retired as an adventurer. The boy asked, "Do you mean Lazy Hoya?" The old man said there was no need for that talk. Lazy Hoya sold me this as a used tent with new quality. I made some improvements to it, so I guarantee its quality. You won't find a better deal than that. So Famicia thanked him and gave him the money. He took it from her, saying I'd put a mark here. But Famicia was surprised, asking, "What is this mark?" The old man replied, "Put a mark in a place only you know, so you know this tent is yours. It could be your name or resemble anything that serves the purpose," she said. "I found it. I'll use Sora," the old man said. "Take this item in a simple but genuine magical pouch. Here, we put money in it, and others can't see what's inside, so it will give you extra protection." Famicia grinned and left. Then Ort spoke to her on the way, saying, "What do you think?" She said, "I managed to buy some wonderful things," and thanked him. He said we should return to our patrol. After that, the scene shifts to Famicia as she sets up the tent and talks to the slime, saying, "This is our tent." The slime is very happy, blindly. It says I will finally be able to sleep without worrying about rain or wind. She tells him I bought it with money I earned myself, and many people treated me kindly. I feel like I got it for free, but still, this is our home. Am I allowed to have all this? Let's go to the landfill site before nightfall and collect doses. This is a big village, so they must be throwing away a lot, she said. Then she leaves the tent and is surprised to find these people in front of her. And this man accuses her of being a thief. When these thieves appear, they accuse Famicia of being a thief. One of them claims that this tent belongs to him. They do this as a play to take over this great tent. Then this thief claims that this boy means Famicia because he looked like a boy when he cut his hair in the past. Everyone who sees him thinks he is a boy, not a girl. She tells them I didn't steal it, but bought this tent myself. The big man grabs her clothes and starts searching her bag. Suddenly noticing Sora in the bag, they are amazed by this creature, as they have never seen anything like it before. The big man threatens Famicia and threatens to kill her, and suddenly this guard comes and tells them that anyone causing trouble will be fined and expelled. So the big man says this boy stole my friend's tent, and we are the victims here. Then the guard asks them, "Do you have evidence that this tent is yours?" The big man says it's impossible for a naughty, dirty child like this to buy such a tent. Then the guard holds the big man's hand and releases the girl, saying this tent belongs to this boy. The person claiming to be the owner of the tent begins to say, "This is my tent." The guard asks him, "Where did you buy this tent?" The claimant replies that there's no need for you to know that. Then the guard tells them that this is a used tent bought from the old man, Logo, the landlord. The man is annoyed and says, "Speak as you like. But what do you know about it?" Then the guard tells them that the ones who recognized this boy at the shop were the leader Ort and his deputy Velavira from the Latome village guard distance 3, and everyone is shocked and stunned by this statement. Then the guard asks the claimant again. The big man says we just misunderstood, that's all, and there's no problem. But the guard gets angry and tells them that he has many questions, unfortunately, and wants to ask them. But if they try to escape, he won't spare them. Then they all try to escape. So the guard whistles for his comrades to come to him quickly, and the remaining guards surround them, immobilizing them. Then the guard attacks the thief who claimed the tent belonged to him, knocking him to the ground, and the rest of the guards apprehend the other thieves. However, the big man and the girl try to escape, but some guards pursue them. Afterward, the leader of the guards orders the guards to take the thieves to jail. Then he goes to check on the boy. He thanks him profusely for his assistance and apologizes to him for the terrifying experience he had on his first day in the village. Famicia then thanks him for saving her and asks him how he knew that was her tent. He tells her that the guard, Ort, passed by some time ago during his patrol and said that a boy would set up a tent alone and ask me to look after you. Despite all that, as a guard here, I'm very ashamed of what happened to you. Then the guard gives him the blue dose to forgive him, making Famicia very happy because it is a completely new and original dose. The guard tells him to consider it an apology from me to you. So Famicia thanks him profusely. The god informs him that he must go now and investigate these thieves, and if anything happens, he should summon him immediately. In the evening, the girl celebrates with her friend for getting a new tent. Our episode begins on that sunny day as Famicia emerges from her tent, enjoying the beautiful weather. She asks Sora if they're going hunting today, to which Sora eagerly responds, igniting Famicia's excitement. On their way to hunt, a guard asks Famicia why she woke up early, and she tells him she's going hunting. We then see Famicia walking through the town, meeting many people who all know her and chat with her. Famicia wonders how everyone knows her. The scene then shifts to Famicia and Sora, where Famicia tells Sora that Nunoshi has destroyed the trap again, meaning they won't be able to catch anything. In this condition, Famicia wants to hunt as much as possible during the summer to save some money. She feels an unusual sensation, and when she looks back, she sees the wolf Ciel, who has caught many rabbits and given them to her. Famicia is overjoyed, hugs Ciel, and after counting, finds 9 rabbits. She decides to prepare and cook them to sell them fresh. After some time, Famicia finishes preparing the meat and goes to wake up Sora and Ciel to sell the meat. The wolf wakes up and starts playing with Famicia. She thanks him for allowing her to have all that meat for the day. Then he leaves, and Famicia and Sora head out too. They go to the store, and the owner tells them that the meat is very fresh, with a delicious smell, and that they caught the rabbits without harming their vital organs. Famicia tells Sora they used traps, surprising the store owner, because usually prey suffer in traps, affecting the taste negatively, but there's no sign of that in the meat. She also mentions her skill in cutting the meat evenly, pricing each at 95 dinars, making the total for 9 rabbits 85 dinars. The store owner thanks Famicia and tells her she's welcome anytime. Famicia walks away happily, attributing all her success to Ciel. She meets several guards who ask her about hunting and money. Then we see Famicia hiding and wondering once again how these guards know who she is. Suddenly Mr. Bellavira appears before her and asks why she's hiding in such a place. He then walks into the town and tells her that Commander Ort informed them that if a young adventurer named Ivy ever gets into trouble, they should make sure to help him. He had been saying this to all the guards, emphasizing that although he's a young boy, he works hard, so they should take good care of him. Then Mr. Bellavira leaves, and we see Famicia talking to herself, grateful for Commander Ort feelings, but not fond of attracting attention. She then goes to the fruit seller and is very excited to find Zoro fruit, but they are expensive. The seller tells her it took a long time to get Zoro fruit, and she asks if they were picked from the Latome village. The seller confirms this and explains that it's the only area where Zoro fruit grows, but the harvest was poor this year. Then he asks her if she's from Latome village, to which she responds affirmatively. He then asks about her parents, and she tells him she travels alone, leading him to assume she's the foolish village chief's mistake. Famicia doesn't understand his words and asks him what's happening in Latome village now. He tells her about a fortune teller named Lady Loba who used to protect the Zoro fruit crops in Latome village. Harvesting these fruits was always challenging, so they relied on her predictions. Lady Loba was highly respected by the villagers, but the foolish village chief couldn't tolerate it. When Lady Loba fell, he refused to give her any medicine, and she died. The villagers never expected her to die from a cold at that time of the year. Additionally, the merchant heard that the village chief is trying to blame a child because Lady Loba ignored his warnings and took care of a starless one after losing the fortune teller. Suddenly, the Zoro harvest in Latome village failed, leading to a financial crisis. The chief attempted to reduce the number of mouths to feed, but some rebelled, taking their families and leaving the village, while others defied the chief and were expelled. Famicia was asked why she fled, and she explained that her parents support the chief, causing trouble for her. Then the merchant took out the Zoro fruit and gave it to Famicia, who refused it, knowing it was too expensive. The merchant explained that it overripened and couldn't be sold. Now that she understands, she must be facing difficulties. Famicia thanked him for his help, then returned to her tent, talking to her jelly friends and lamenting her family's rejection. However, she found joy in her new companions, Jelly, Ciel, and Mr. Ort, and Mr. Bellavira, who all love and support her. She realizes she has a place to live, albeit a small one, and is content. The Jelly tries to convey this message, eventually succeeding in expressing that they'll remain friends forever. She then tastes a piece of the fruit, finding it delicious, reminiscent of the fortune teller's taste. She remembers the fortune teller's advice to find a place to live in the nearby town near the royal capital, but to find trustworthy people and share everything about herself with them. The next day, Famicia wakes up in a calm and beautiful atmosphere. She goes outside, where she receives greetings from everyone she meets on the street. Everyone loves her and appreciates her efforts, despite her young age. Famicia goes about her work making traps for hunting, and then asks the slime to go collect its meal in the garbage dump. Suddenly, she senses people in the area, so the slime hides in her bag. Indeed, 2 members of the Highwayman gang appear, recognizing Famicia as Ivy. They threaten to kill her, blaming her for the arrest of their friend. When they realize she has a rare slime, they demand she give it to them in exchange for their forgiveness. However, Famicia refuses because the slime is her friend. As Famicia refuses to hand over the bag, revealing her friend Sora is inside, one of the thieves suggests she taste a bitter liquid as punishment. When she refuses, the thief threatens to beat her. Terrified, Famicia runs away, and the thief chases her. However, she sets traps everywhere, causing the thief to stumble. The female thief laughs at him and chases after Famicia. The angry thief declares that she won't escape his grasp as Famicia runs. The female thief appears in front of her, and the male thief is behind her. The male thief grabs her and demands the bag and its contents. Suddenly, a wolf appears, frightening them. The wolf attacks the male thief, saving Famicia. She thanks the wolf for saving her life and says something strange, comparing the situation to catching wild rabbits. Famicia senses more people approaching, revealed to be Ort and Bellavira. Ort asks if she's all right, and when he mentions hearing the roar of a beast and human cries while wandering in the forest. Then the scene shifts to a room where Ort talks to Famicia, saying something regarding those 4 adventurers who were bothering you. They've all been investigated. They were stealing money and small goods, falsely accusing others. Their crimes were reported to the Adventurers Guild, but it was difficult to find evidence against them. However, there's another matter I need to apologize for. The 2 we apprehended today were wanted for murder. They'll become slaves without manumission, and the other 2 have been sentenced to long-term servitude, so you won't encounter them again. You can rest assured. Famicia thanks him, and he informs her that since she contributed to their capture, she'll receive a financial reward. The standard reward for an ordinary person is $5,000 for a killer and $2,000 for others. However, the guild offers a bounty of $1 for each of them, totaling $2 and 3 Geetles. Famicia is overjoyed, stating that the monetary reward she received in Latome equated to 2,800 Fars, so she already has more than a 5,000 Fars value. He then gives her the money and asks if she has an account for herself. He offers to help her set up an account at the Merchant Guild to ease her worries about carrying such a large sum. The scene then shifts to the Merchant Guild, where the clerk instructs Famicia to put a drop of her blood here. She pricks her finger on the needle, and a screen appears, displaying Augusti's details. He learns Famicia's true age and is astonished, as he thought she was around 6 or 7 years old. Famicia enters the room and hands all her money to the clerk. Taking the tablet, Ort hands it to her. Ort tells her that with this tablet, she can withdraw money from any merchant guild in any village or town. Famicia is surprised to find a deposit book with her, and she thanks Ort for his help and cooperation. Suddenly, Famicia's friend Bellavira arrives, furious because Commander Ort didn't inform him of his whereabouts, as he had been looking for him for a long time. He asks Ort to inform him of where he is going before leaving. Ort, feeling ashamed, admits he forgot to tell him. Then the commander invites Famicia to taste their special dish, Gnocchi skewers, which she doesn't know at that moment. The commander invites her to eat this meal on his account. And so Famicia is very happy, and the leader praises her. She wonders how much time has passed since she was praised. Then they go to this lady, thinking that Famisia is one of the leader's children. After that, they ask her for 10 skewers of nondu chai for each of them, saying it's very delicious and easy to eat 10 of them. Famisia then presents them with these delicious meals, and she starts eating. She finds the food very delicious and thanks them for it. Velavira remarks that this lady is very skilled, and it's no wonder the royal capital requests her food. Famisia, feeling sad, reveals that her cooking skills are only at a 4-star level. The leader explains that the 2 people they captured have a 3-star running skill, making it very difficult to catch them. Velavira suggests that the guards could use more people with running skills, but the leader explains that everyone has suitable combat skills. Then the leader asks Famisia about her skill. Velavira suggests that if her skill is suitable, she might join the guards in the future, which they find to be a good idea. Famisia then reveals that she's actually a tamer, which delights them, and the leader praises her skill as one that can help many people. The leader asks how many stars her taming skill has, and Famisia becomes very sad. The leader notices this and reassures her, saying they see many people with many stars but without usefulness, like the members of a gang who were literally like that. Velavira agrees, stating that even with many stars, many failed to use their skills properly and ended up on the wrong path in life. It's their duty to put such people under their control. The leader concludes by saying that there are many deserving people with only 1 star and many who do excellent work with only 1 star. So Famisia, feeling worried, observes them interacting with each other in the evening. She thinks to herself that she doesn't even possess that 1 star. In the morning, Famisia leaves through the village gate and finds the leader and his friend standing there. She informs them that she is leaving because she promised the scouts that she would go to the neighboring town near the royal capital. They are very saddened by her departure. The leader jokingly tells her that if anything bad happens to her, she should only mention his name, and if she says she's Ort's friend, she can go anywhere. Famisia thanks them deeply for everything they've done for her, bids them farewell, and leaves. The leader tells her to return someday, and they'll be waiting for her. Famisia assures him that she will someday. Velavira informs the leader that both the Adventurers Guild and the Merchants Guild have given Latome village, the lowest ranking, the same place where that child came from, who is classified as number 1. They ask about the list of people who left the village. The leader explains that he checked all of them, but the child's name was not listed. Most people left the village as whole families, but there was only 1 child, an 8-year-old girl who escaped alone. And the leader understands that this girl must have a secret that made her hide her gender. Velavira suggests that this might be the reason she couldn't trust them. The leader agrees, remarking on how the events in Latome village affected her feelings. He tells Velavira that one day she will tell them. The leader concludes by saying that he is sure of it. Our episodes begin with this anime, where we see Sora running with Famisia chasing after him, asking him to wait for her. Famisia then sits down to rest for a while, drinks, and tells Sora that he seems very energetic today. Sora appears very happy, but Famisia realizes that Sora has changed. After treating Ciel's wounds, he consumed the wounds and evolved. Indeed, he loves the blue doses that heal wounds, but Famisia doesn't finish her conversation. She notices Sora moving away from her a little, so she follows him and asks him what's wrong. Then she is surprised to see a very large hole and says that the no-show was digging here in search of Yamamo. She wonders how big this no-show is. Suddenly, she hears a sound, and when she looks, she sees the wolf, Ciel. She becomes very happy and starts playing with him, telling them that she loves them very much. The scene transitions to the night, and we see Famisia eating grilled meat and telling the wolf that it was easy to prepare dinner when he caught many wild rabbits. She thanks him for that and says that tomorrow she will wake up early to check the field mouse traps. The next morning, Famisia goes to check the traps but finds no mice at all. She feels sad and says that she came back empty-handed, but she still has some leftover meat from the previous night and will eat it for breakfast. Then suddenly, Famisia feels a strange sensation and looks to see winds coming towards her. She wonders what this is, and then the slime enters her backpack. As she runs away, we see that thing chasing them, making her feel nauseous. Famisia runs until she reaches the edge of the pit. When she looks at the wind, she realizes that it's not a monster but a human. Suddenly the wolf seal appears, and then those winds disappear, surprising Famisia, who wonders what that was. Then we see Famisia on the wolf's back, thanking him for saving her. She remembers the uncomfortable feeling and wonders what it was. Suddenly, the wolf gets angry, and we see the ogre climbing the mountain to reach them. The wolf puts Famicia on the ground and prepares to attack. When the ogre appears, the wolf attacks him, and they both fall into the lake. Then Famicia looks up and sees many monsters attacking her. She flees quickly until she reaches a strange place with many trees and many logs hanging from them like corpses. She wonders what this means, and when the monsters appear again, Famicia continues to flee. She steps on one of the traps and gets caught in the net on a tree just as the monster approaches her. Just before it attacks her, a magical force appears to attack it with a person named Lattrua, using fire attacks to eliminate them. Then he looks up and sees Famicia, who tells him that the net is very hot. Then Famicia screams, as the fire is too intense for her. Lattrua is surprised to see a child up there in the trap, but another person comes and rescues Famicia by shooting the rope with an arrow, causing her to fall, but the boy Lattrua catches her just in time. However, the monster approaches them and almost kills them, but then a girl named Meela arrives and uses her gel to save them. She then summons more members to her aid, and the rest of the group kills the large monsters. They were numerous, while Famicia watched, astonished. They are powerful and organized, and they work together. Then Famicia starts to get to know them. They are the suppression squad sent to this area. After hearing that monsters were hunting and killing humans, they apologized to her for the trap she fell into, explaining that it was meant for the monsters, not her. She fell into it by mistake. They reassure her that she's okay, and she thanks them for saving her. The boy with golden hair tells her they are a group of adventurers called the Blazing Swords. The one with white hair is the leader named Seyzelk. The one beside him is called Nouga. The one with long hair and a bow is named Ciel, and the boy with blue eyes is Lattrua, consulting with the girl behind him named Meela. Famicia introduces herself with the nickname Ivy, happy to have met them. The scene shifts, and the leader speaks to her as they walk. Their camping site is at the bottom of the hill. But what is she doing here in the midst of the mountains? He asks. She tells them she was on her way to the town of Otolwa from a village called Latome the Tame. Afterwards, the monsters chase me again, so everyone is surprised that she's alone as the monsters are hovering in the area. Therefore, they all go to the same place, but it's necessary for her to travel with them to be safe. Then the leader points out the location of the suppression squad's camping site. Seyzelk mentions that there are many adventurer groups with them in this location. At this moment, Ciel appears, and when Famicia sees him, she is very happy but also very worried because if anyone finds her now, they will hunt her down. She keeps gesturing for him to leave, but he doesn't understand her. She continues to signal for him to understand and leave until Lattrua sees her doing that. He asks her if there is a problem or not, and she replies that there isn't anything. He then tells her that the place is this way, and after they reach the camping site, Famicia continues to look at the people present and finds that there is a large gathering of adventure teams from different places, so this place must expand to accommodate them. After that, the leader speaks to her, saying that this is their tent, the Blazing Swords tent. Then he tells her that the piece of land next to them is vacant, so she can use it as she pleases. Then the leader speaks to the rest of his team, saying that they must leave as they will attend a meeting about the next steps in hunting the monsters, leaving Lattrua with Famicia so he can do whatever she wants. Then we transition to Lattrua with Famicia, where there are lots of vegetables and meat in front of them. Famicia asks if he will cook, and he replies that he will. Although he's never been skilled at cooking, he always tries hard to cook something. But when the rest of the team tastes it, they never like the taste. So they get angry with him, making him scared of cooking. Famicia asks them about the nature of the dishes he usually prepares. He answers that despite its appearance, he has a 3-star fire attack skill where he grills and roasts, burning everything in front of him and seasoning it with salt and pepper. So he asks her to help him prepare this dinner, and Famicia agrees. Famicia says, "Let's prepare wild rabbit meat together. We can use herbs to remove the gamey odor, rub it well with some salt for seasoning, then cut it into small pieces and shallow fry it. We'll also chop the vegetables and cook them in a pan with the meat, adding some herbs for aroma and flavor. Then we'll take some mutton, add some moderately spicy herbs, and fry until browned and ready." Lattrua is very impressed by Famicia's cooking skills. After that, they eat the food. Famicia hopes they like it. The leader invites them to start eating, and they thank her for the food, their faces changing. Then Famicia becomes sad, asking if they didn't like the food. Seyzelk speaks up, holding this dish, and smells it. He says it's a wild rabbit, but he doesn't smell any foul odor. Nouga says it's fragrant, and he didn't know food could be cooked like this. Famicia then explains about a dish with aromatic tree leaves cooked at high heat, which helps remove the gamey odor from the meat. Then she thinks to herself, If people in this area don't use herbs, it will taste nasty. Then Meela comes in, saying, "What a beautiful smell. It's so strange to see the blazing swords enjoying a decent meal." Lattrua tells her she came at the perfect time. Famicia brought a beautiful meal. Meela is very happy and goes to join them. She tastes the food and is amazed by it. The leader says it's very delicious. The cooking is perfect and the aroma is delightful. Famicia tells them she's very glad they like the food. Seyzelk says that since Lattrua was tasked with cooking duty, he was worried about our dinner tonight. But thanks to her, they enjoyed it. Then Lattrua asks if Famicia cooked all this food, and she replies, "Lattrua and I prepared it together. He skillfully controlled the fire for me, so the results were commendable." Lattrua then tells them that fire control is ultimately his specialty. He then lights a torch and throws it into the sky, causing fireworks to happen, delighting everyone. Famicia tells them they have a variety of metals so they can create more beautiful fires using these materials, which include scraps and shards of iron, copper, tin, decorative stones, and other equipment. Famicia is very happy about this, but Meela asks her what she will do with all these pieces. Famicia explains that, for example, if they take this decorative stone and add this wild rabbit bone and some salt, then tie them together like this. She then asks Lattrua if he can launch these upwards and burn them the way he did before. He does so, and beautiful lights, like fireworks of different colors, emerge from them. This process is repeated several times, and the sky lights up with fireworks. Afterwards, everyone finishes their meal, having indulged in eating too much because the food was so delicious. Then the leader, Seyzelk, comes and orders Famicia to go and rest because she prepared all this delicious food for them. He tells her that they will take care of the cleaning. Famicia insists that she will also clean the dishes because she managed to celebrate thanks to them, and she wants to thank them for saving her from the ogre. The leader agrees to clean the dishes together. Suddenly, we see Lattrua is deeply affected by Famicia. He tells her, "You're very cute. I wish I had a little child like you." Then he hugs her, but everyone stops him and moves him away from her because he's strong and might hurt her with his powerful body. After that, she enters her tent and apologizes to Sora for being late. She gives him his special dinner, and Sora is very happy and starts eating. Famicia says to herself, "Today was tough in every way, and those people surprised me at first. I'm glad they're good people. Good night." On the other hand, we see Seyzelk with black hair, saying this boy is still very young. I'm amazed by his ability to travel all this distance alone. They imagine him as a boy, not a girl. Nouga, the strong one with red hair, notices that the boy didn't eat well, as he looks very thin. They all love this child. The leader Seyzelk says, "That child is very cute with others." The worried look on his face when I asked him to rest, and his expression of happiness when I asked him to help me clean seemed as if he had in mind that if he wasn't useful, it would be thrown aside. But there's really nothing we can do about that. On the other side, we see Famicia and Sora sleeping deeply, blissfully happy. And with that, our episode ends today. I appreciate you viewing my anime recap, Unruly Family. Please let me know what you think about the weakest Tamer began a journey to pick up trash by liking, sharing, subscribing, and leaving a comment.
Take you